People often fear aging, but the Buddha taught that old age is the greatest treasure, if only we learn to see it through the eyes of wisdom. After 60, life is no longer about rushing or competing. It becomes about cherishing every breath, forgiving what is past, and finding peace in the present moment. In this stage of life, the wrinkles on our face are not signs of loss, but lines of experience, proof that we have lived, loved, and endured. And it is here in these years that the Buddha's stories shine brightest, guiding us toward compassion, clarity, and a heart at rest. Have you ever noticed how, as we grow older, it's not the number of years that truly matters, but the depth of meaning inside each day? After 60, life slows down, relationships shift, and we begin to ask questions we once ignored. What is worth holding on to? What must I finally let go? More than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha shared stories that speak directly to this stage of life. These are not just old parables, they are timeless mirrors, reflecting the wisdom we often overlook when we are young. Each of the 7 Buddha stories is like a lantern, guiding the way through the twilight years, not with fear of aging, but with grace, compassion, and peace. Imagine standing at sunset. The light is softer, shadows are longer, yet beauty is everywhere if you choose to see it. This is what the Buddha taught. Aging is not a loss, it is a new lens, a chance to live with lighter hands and a gentler heart. The Buddha's stories remind us to let go of regrets, forgive the past, and open space for compassion. Each day becomes less about chasing and more about being present, watching the breath, feeling gratitude, sharing kindness. In these moments, we see that impermanence is not a curse, but a gentle reminder. Everything changes, and that is what makes life precious. So as we explore these 7 stories, let them be more than words. Let them be companions, whispering that it's never too late to live peacefully, to embrace compassion, and to rest in the quiet strength of your own heart. We will go to the first part of today's video. Story 1, Angulimala. The power to transform a life. Long ago, there was a man whose name made whole villages tremble. He was called Angulimala, a feared killer who wore a grotesque necklace made from the fingers of those he had slain. His life was a long shadow of hatred and violence. By all appearances, he seemed utterly beyond redemption. Yet it is often in the deepest darkness that light can be found. One day, Angulimala encountered the Buddha on a quiet road. He ran after him, weapon ready, determined to kill. Strange as it sounds, no matter how fast he ran, he could not catch up. Breathless and furious, he shouted, "Stop, monk!" The Buddha turned with calm eyes and replied simply, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." Those words cut through him like a bell ringing in the silence. They reached someplace deeper than fear or shame. They reached his heart. For the first time, Angulimala saw that the real enemy was not outside. No villain to be chased, but the unrest and blindness sitting inside him. The running, the clinging, the fury that kept him moving in circles. In that moment, he let go. He laid down his weapon, bowed his head, and became a disciple. Where once he had taken life, he learned to protect and to heal, helping women in childbirth, easing suffering, living as a gentle presence. For those of us living into our later years, this story carries a sharp, tender lesson. It is never too late to change. No matter the weight of mistakes or the long history of regret, transformation is always possible in this very breath. The past cannot be rewritten, but the way we show up now can be different. Think of how we sometimes carry our regrets like a necklace, counting each error and wearing it openly. Angulimala literally carried his crimes around his neck. We carry ours in memory and habit. The Buddha's simple invitation, stop, is not judgment. It is an opening. It asks only for one small thing, to cease running with anger, to stop feeding resentment, to let the old story fall away so something new can begin. If you are past 60 and worry it's too late to begin again, let this story dissolve that fear. If a man whose hands were stained with violence could awaken into compassion, then what limitations truly hold you? Imagine setting down a heavy stone you have carried for decades. Your shoulders relax. Your steps grow lighter. That is the freedom the Buddha offered Angulimala, and the same freedom is available to you. Transformation here is not about erasing memory or pretending harm never happened. It is about seeing clearly, responding differently, and choosing to act from a heart that has learned. In the twilight years, our bodies may slow, but our capacity for kindness can deepen. Time may feel shorter, but the quality of each breath can be richer. The Buddha's meeting with Angulimala reminds us that a single moment of waking can reorient an entire life. Ask yourself, what are you still carrying? Anger? Guilt? A long-held grievance? What if right now you simply decided to stop carrying it? What would change if you treated yourself with the same compassion you might offer a stranger in pain? Angulimala's journey is not merely an ancient anecdote. It is a mirror held up to every person who has ever longed to do better. The power to transform is not limited by age. It waits in the quiet places of the heart, in the breath between one thought and the next. Even at 60, 70, or 80, a new direction is possible. So let this be the first lantern we light on our path today. Let Angulimala's turning be our reminder. The heart can change. The world can change through one person's decision to stop and open. If he could change from a bringer of death to a bringer of care, then there is nothing, no past guilt, no late hour, that should stop you from choosing compassion now. After witnessing Angulimala's transformation, we may ask ourselves, if change is possible, why do so many of us still feel trapped in endless struggles of the mind? The Buddha understood this well, and his answer came through another story, one that continues to echo across centuries. Let us go now to the next part of today's video. Story 2, the poisoned arrow and the wisdom of letting go of endless questions. In ancient India, a man once came to the Buddha filled with questions. His mind was restless, circling around mysteries. Is the universe eternal or temporary? Does the soul survive after death? What is the exact nature of life and time? He believed that if he could gather all the right answers, his suffering would disappear. The Buddha listened patiently, and instead of giving him direct answers, he told a parable. Imagine a man struck by a poisoned arrow. The wound is deep, and the poison is spreading quickly. A physician comes with medicine and tools to remove the arrow, but the man resists, saying, "Wait, I must know who shot this arrow. Was he tall or short? Young or old? What wood was used to carve the shaft? What kind of feather steadied its flight? And what poison coats the tip? Until I know all of this, I will not allow you to remove it." And so, while waiting for answers, the man dies, though the cure was right there. This parable is not simply a story from the past, it is a mirror for our own lives. How often do we, too, keep asking why instead of taking the chance to heal? Why did this loss come to me? Why did this relationship fail? Why is my body burdened with illness? Why was life not what I imagined? These questions seem natural, but when they become endless, they trap us. The arrow remains in our heart, and instead of pulling it out, we analyze it until the poison spreads deeper. The Buddha's wisdom points to a shift. The real question is not why did this happen, but how can I live peacefully with what has already happened? That simple turn opens the door to freedom. For those of us beyond 60, this lesson shines with special clarity. At this stage of life, time feels more precious. Yet the mind can easily fall into dwelling on regrets, failures, or injustices. If we spend the years ahead demanding answers that the universe never promised to give, we risk wasting the gift of the present moment. Think of a glass of muddy water. If you stir it constantly, the water never clears. But if you let it rest, the mud settles and clarity returns. Endless questioning is like stirring the glass. Letting go is like setting it down. Wisdom arises not from collecting every answer, but from stillness, acceptance, and presence. At 60 and beyond, we stand at a threshold. We may not control the years already passed, but we can choose how to live the years that remain. Every day can be an opportunity to lighten the load. Endless whys are like heavy stones in a backpack. You carry them until your shoulders ache. The Buddha reminds us, it is not weakness to put them down. It is wisdom. This does not mean silencing all curiosity. It means asking better questions, the kind that heal. Instead of, why did my life turn this way? Ask, how can I cultivate peace today? Instead of, why did this person hurt me? Ask, how can I free myself through forgiveness? Instead of, why is aging so difficult? Ask, how can I embrace the grace of this moment? The poisoned arrow is within all of us. Regrets, unanswered questions. wounds that never close. The teaching is clear. Do not wait for every mystery to be solved before you allow yourself to heal. Pull out the arrow. Let the poison leave your heart. Live now with tenderness and presence. And so the story of the poisoned arrow leaves us with a gift. Peace does not come from solving life's riddles. It comes from courage. The courage to stop asking, to start living, and to rest in the beauty of the present breath. And now as we continue this journey of wisdom, we arrive at the next story in today's video, the Swan and Devadatta, the wisdom of compassion. Long before he became the Buddha, Prince Siddhartha once walked in the royal gardens when he heard the desperate cry of a swan. An arrow had pierced its delicate wing. The young prince rushed forward, carefully lifting the trembling bird from the ground. He held it close, whispering as though his voice alone could ease the pain. At that very moment, his cousin Devadatta appeared, bow in hand. With pride in his eyes, Devadatta declared, "That swan is mine. I struck it with my arrow." Amarnam term. But Siddhartha shook his head gently. A life belongs not to the one who tries to destroy it, but to the one who protects it. The matter was taken to the king, who listened to both sides. Finally, he ruled in Siddhartha's favor, saying, "Life belongs to the one who gives it safety, not the one who brings it harm." The swan was healed and eventually returned to the sky, free again. This story may seem simple, almost like a tale we would tell children. Yet hidden inside is one of the deepest truths of Buddhist wisdom. Compassion is the highest form of intelligence. Knowledge alone can become cold, and ambition without kindness can lead to destruction. But compassion, that quiet, steady force, creates healing, connection, and meaning. At 60 and beyond, this lesson becomes more vivid. We begin to realize that our greatest power no longer lies in physical strength, social status, or material wealth. Those things fade. What remains is the legacy of our heart. Do people feel safer, kinder, and more seen because we were in their lives? That is the question compassion invites us to ask. Think about it. When you are gone, what will remain? It will not be the size of your house or the balance in your bank account. It will be the warmth of the meals you shared, the times you forgave when you could have held anger, the encouragement you gave to someone in despair. These are the feathers of compassion, and when gathered together, they form wings strong enough to carry a legacy across generations. The Buddha's story of the swan also reveals that compassion is not weakness. In fact, it requires courage. It takes bravery to stand against cruelty, to choose to heal rather than harm, to forgive when others insist on revenge. Siddhartha's refusal to surrender the swan was not an act of softness. It was an act of profound strength. For those of us navigating life after 60, this courage of compassion becomes our anchor. The world may tell us that aging is decline, but the Dharma whispers something far more beautiful. Aging is the season where the heart finally ripens. The body may weaken, but the capacity for compassion deepens. So let this story remind you, your true wealth lies in the kindness you offer. Each small act of compassion, a smile, a gentle word, a listening ear, becomes a light that others will carry long after you are gone. Just as the swan returned to the open sky, those touched by your compassion will carry that freedom in their hearts. And perhaps one day they too will protect a life, forgive a mistake, or offer love where others would not, because you once showed them how. That is the wisdom of compassion. That is the legacy that outlives us all. As we let the image of the swan soar into the sky, carrying with it the lesson of compassion, our path now leads us to the next story in today's video. The Buddha and the Angry Man, Finding Freedom Through Forgiveness. It is said that one day, while the Buddha was teaching, a man consumed by anger approached him. Unable to contain his fury, the man hurled insults, harsh words, and accusations at the enlightened one. His voice trembled with rage, hoping to wound, to provoke, to humiliate. But the Buddha simply stood in silence, calm as still water. When the man had finally emptied his anger, the Buddha asked a simple question. If a person offers a gift to another, and that gift is not accepted, who does it belong to? Confused, the man replied, "Why, it still belongs to the one who offered it." The Buddha then said gently, "And so it is with your anger. I do not accept it. Therefore, it remains with you. Aha, Kiki. This simple story contains a liberation more powerful than any weapon or wealth. It reminds us that forgiveness is not about excusing someone's wrong actions. It is about refusing to carry the burden of their anger. At 60 and beyond, this truth becomes a medicine for the heart. We realize that holding grudges is like clutching burning coals, hoping the other will feel pain, yet only our own hands are scorched. To forgive does not mean we agree with injustice. It means we choose not to chain ourselves to bitterness. Think of the years we spend carrying resentments. Old wounds replay in the mind like a broken record. Every memory of betrayal, every harsh word, each disappointment, these can become walls around the heart. But forgiveness is the key that opens the door, letting us breathe again. The Buddha's response to the angry man was not passivity, it was mastery. It was the strength to say, I will not let your darkness control the light within me. Imagine what our lives could feel like if we practiced this same mastery. How much lighter would our steps be if we laid down the heavy luggage of resentment? In our later years, life itself invites us to release these burdens. Relationships shift. Time grows shorter. The meaning of each day becomes more precious. Carrying grudges steals joy from the moments we still have. Forgiveness, on the other hand, returns those moments to us. Perhaps you can recall someone in your own life whose words or actions left scars. Perhaps decades have passed, and yet their shadow still walks beside you. What would it mean for you to finally set it down? To say, I will no longer drink the poison of your anger? Forgiveness is not weakness. It is courage. It is the decision to live free. The Buddha did not let the angry man's insults define him. Likewise, after 60, we too can choose to define ourselves not by wounds but by the love we cultivate. So let this story be a mirror. Look closely at the burdens you carry. Which ones are truly yours? Which ones were simply gifts of anger and cruelty that you do not need to accept? And what would your life feel like if you placed them down today? The answer is simple. It would feel like freedom. That is the wisdom of forgiveness. That is the peace that awaits when we choose to let go. After learning that forgiveness frees the heart more than anger ever could, we now arrive at another timeless lesson. In today's video, our next story shines through. The potter and the art of patience. There was once a poor potter who spent his days shaping clay into vessels. With calloused hands and weary eyes, he worked long hours, molding earth into bowls and jars. One day, after much effort, he crafted a pot more beautiful than any he had ever made. With pride, he placed it in the kiln, waiting for fire to turn it into strength. But when he returned, he found a long crack running down its side. His heart sank. Anger rose like flames. In his fury, he smashed the pot into pieces and abandoned the kiln. It was at that moment the Buddha happened to pass by. He saw the shards on the ground, the potter's trembling hands, the despair in his eyes. The Buddha asked gently, Tell me, have you ever seen a pot that was perfect on the very first try? Ashamed, the potter lowered his head. No, Lord. Every pot must be shaped and reshaped many times. The Buddha smiled softly and said, So it is with the human heart. Patience is the wheel upon which wisdom is formed. Mistakes are like clay. They can be reshaped. And understanding is the hand that guides. Those words struck the potter deeper than any crack in his clay. He realized that life itself was not about creating flawless perfection in a single attempt. It was about learning, correcting, softening, and trying again. From that day forward, he worked with patience. His pots grew stronger, more beautiful, and more beloved than before. For us, especially in the later chapters of life, this story offers a powerful reflection. How often have we looked back at our own cracks, the failures, the disappointments, the relationships that did not hold together, and judged ourselves harshly? How often have we wanted to smash everything and walk away? Yet the Buddha's teaching reminds us, nothing is wasted, not even mistakes. Like clay, our experiences can be reshaped if we meet them with patience. At 60 and beyond, patience is no longer just waiting. It becomes wisdom. We see that rushing, forcing, or demanding perfection only deepens the cracks. But gentleness, persistence, and steady hands can turn even broken clay into vessels of beauty. Think about the pottery of your own life. Which cracks still trouble you? Which disappointments still weigh on your heart? What if you looked at them not as final failures, but as clay still waiting for your hands. The truth is, our lives are not meant to be flawless. They are meant to be shaped. Each time we falter and rise again, each time we forgive ourselves and try anew, we are molding a stronger vessel. And the beauty of age is that the longer we live, the more skillful our hands become at shaping what really matters. So as the Buddha taught the potter, let patience be your tool, let mistakes be your clay, and let wisdom guide your hands. Because the cracks of yesterday do not define you. They are simply the places where new strength can grow. This is the art of patience, and it is an art that can transform every stage of life, especially the golden years. Patience, like the steady hands of a potter, teaches us that beauty emerges slowly through time and care. And as our journey of wisdom unfolds in today's video, we now arrive at another radiant lesson, one that speaks directly to the heart of aging with dignity and purpose. The old monk and the empty bowl. The secret of contentment. There was once an elderly monk who had begun to feel a heavy sense of uselessness. His body was no longer strong, his memory faltered, his steps slowed, and he could no longer perform the tasks that once gave him a sense of belonging and value within the monastery. Surrounded by younger monks who carried water, built houses, and recited scriptures with youthful vigor, the old monk's heart sank into quiet sorrow. He whispered to himself, "What am I worth now? Perhaps my time of meaning has ended." Hearing of his despair, the Buddha visited him. He sat gently beside the old monk and with compassionate eyes held up an empty bowl. "Tell me," the Buddha asked softly, "what do you see here?" The old monk replied, "A bowl, but it is empty. It has no purpose." The Buddha smiled and said, "Empty? Only in this moment. Yet when food is placed in it, does it not nourish the body? When water fills it, does it not quench thirst? Its emptiness is not uselessness. Its emptiness is readiness." The monk's eyes widened. For the first time, he saw the beauty in his own stage of life. His body, though frail, was a vessel. His silence, though deep, was a container of wisdom. His stillness was not absence, but presence. The lesson here is profound. Life's value does not vanish as our hair turns white or as our hands lose their strength. Instead, it transforms. The old monk realized he was not an abandoned bowl, but a vessel ready to be filled with new purpose, teaching patience, offering compassion, embodying peace. For those of us stepping beyond 60, this story is a gentle call to stop measuring ourselves against the energy of our youth. Too often we compare what we once could do with what we can no longer achieve. But just as an empty bowl is waiting to be filled, our later years are not about loss. They are about receiving new meaning. Perhaps we no longer climb mountains, but we can teach others how to rest in valleys. Perhaps we no longer memorize scriptures, but we can share stories that shape hearts. Perhaps we no longer carry bricks, but we can hold space for love, kindness, and forgiveness. True contentment arises not from clinging to who we were, but from embracing who we are becoming. In this stage of life, we are not empty in despair. We are open in readiness. Every wrinkle is a line of poetry written by experience. Every pause is an invitation for deeper reflection. And every quiet moment is a chance to let life pour into us, filling us with meaning far beyond productivity. So let us remember the image of the empty bowl. When we feel overlooked or insignificant, may we know that our worth is not gone. It has simply changed shape. After 60, our role is not to compete with youth, but to enrich it. We are the vessel that holds wisdom, patience, and compassion, ready to nourish those who come after us. And in this realization lies true freedom, the freedom of being enough, exactly as we are. Contentment softens the heart, like the empty bowl ready to be filled with new meaning. But there is one lesson that every human life must eventually face, a truth so raw and universal that no wisdom is complete without it. Our journey now arrives at this final light, Kisagotami and the art of letting go. Kisagotami was a young woman whose world collapsed when her beloved child died in her arms. Her grief was unbearable. She carried the small body through the streets, begging everyone she met, "Please give me medicine to bring him back to life." Some pitied her, some shook their heads, and others turned away in silence. Her pain was so great that reason could not reach her. At last she came to the Buddha. With gentle compassion, he did not dismiss her request. Instead, he told her, Yes, there is a way. But first, bring me a single mustard seed from a household that has never known death. Her heart leapt with hope. She rushed from door to door, asking each family, and every family answered with the same truth. Yes, we have mustard seeds, but death has visited us too. A father, a mother, a child. We have all lost someone. By the end of her search, Kisagotami's arms were still empty, but now her heart carried something new, understanding. She saw that her loss was not a curse aimed at her alone. It was the shared condition of all human beings. Death had touched every household, and grief was the thread binding humanity together. Her tears did not stop, but they flowed differently. They were no longer the desperate tears of denial, but the tender tears of acceptance. The Buddha's lesson to Kisagotami is one of the deepest truths of life. Clinging to what must pass only multiplies suffering. Letting go is not abandonment of love. It is honoring love by releasing the chains of attachment. For those of us walking beyond 60, this story shines with particular resonance. By this stage of life, many of us have stood at funerals, said farewell to parents, siblings, friends, or even a lifelong partner. Some of us have tasted the piercing grief of losing a child, or the quiet ache of watching someone we love fade away. Loss is no longer an abstract idea, it is a lived reality. But here lies the paradox. Even as loss grows, so can wisdom. We discover that love does not die with the body. The memories, the kindness, the moments of laughter and connection, they remain etched in our being like sacred imprints. Letting go, then, does not mean we stop loving. It means we allow love to breathe freely, unchained by the impossible wish to reverse time. Imagine carrying a stone in your hand, clenching it tightly day and night. Your hand grows sore, your body weary, but you cannot release it because you think holding on proves your love. The Buddha teaches otherwise. Letting the stone fall does not erase the bond. It frees your hand to open, to embrace life again, to hold the next hand that reaches for yours. Letting go, in truth, is the highest courage of age. It is not a weakness nor a cold detachment, but a surrender to life's river. We realize that everything we once loved flows into the vast ocean of existence, and we ourselves are flowing there too. To resist is to drown in sorrow. To release is to float in peace. So, after 60, when loss feels heavier, may we remember Kisagotami's mustard seed. No home is spared from impermanence, but in that shared reality lies the tenderness of human connection. We suffer together, we heal together, and we carry forward the love of those who are gone by embodying their best qualities in our own lives. In the art of letting go, we discover that death is not the end of love. It is the transformation of love into wisdom, compassion, and presence. And perhaps this is the most radiant gift of aging: the strength to release, the grace to accept, and the freedom to live fully, even as we walk with loss. The 7 stories we've explored today are not just parables. They are mirrors reflecting the truth of life after 60. Each carries a unique lesson, and together they form a path of wisdom, compassion, and freedom. Angulimala reminds us that transformation is always possible. No matter how heavy the past, the present holds the power to change. Even at 70, a step toward compassion is a step toward healing. From the poisoned arrow, we learn that endless questions cannot remove suffering. Peace arises not from why, but from how we accept and live with what is. The tale of the swan and Devadatta shows us that compassion is the greatest legacy. Wealth and fame fade, but kindness remains alive in the hearts of others long after we are gone. In the Buddha's meeting with the angry man, forgiveness shines as freedom. To let go of anger is to refuse to carry another's burden. After 60, time is too precious for bitterness. Only forgiveness brings release. The humble potter teaches the strength of patience. Like clay shaped through fire, our spirit matures through trials. Patience is not weakness, but the art of enduring with wisdom. From the elder monk in the empty bowl, we see that aging does not erase value. Even when strength fades, life invites us to be vessels of wisdom, compassion, and presence. Finally, Kisagotami's mustard seed offers the courage to let go. Loss is inevitable, but release transforms grief into understanding. To let go is not to forget, but to carry love more freely. Together, these 7 stories deliver a clear truth. Life after 60 is not an ending, but a season of awakening. Youth is for gathering, age is for releasing. In release, we discover peace. So let every morning after 60 remind us, each breath is still a gift, each day still a chance to live deeply. The Buddha said, just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life. Our bodies may tire, but the flame of spirit lit by compassion and patience can shine brighter than ever. This is the treasure of aging, not fading strength, but rising inner light. May we walk the later chapters of life with dignity, kindness, and the joy of knowing that every day is another chance to live fully awake.